Morning, good afternoon, good evening. Poor leadership remains Africa's biggest problem. Zimbabwe is a failed state because the last 44 years since the country's independence in 1980, we've been stuck with a corrupt, incompetent, and tyrannical ZANU-PF regime. Africa as a whole has suffered from bad governance. Question is, how long are we going to allow this to continue? Here is a short video clip, somebody talking to that point of how Africa is being exploited.
At least 435 tons of gold were smuggled out of Africa. 435 tons. That's more than 1 ton of gold every day.
Dubai has been exploiting Africa's gold. But who's behind this masterminded heist? If you think it's just one nation, you're mistaken. In reality, multiple nations have banded together to plunder Africa's gold. And tragically, while they grow richer, Africa remains trapped in economic instability. They, in return, give nothing. Who's really behind it all? Let's find out. Africa, blessed with immense natural wealth and exploitation. From the dark days of civilization, Africa's resources have consistently been drained by those who see its riches as theirs for the taking. Today, stands at the center of a new chapter in this age-old story, the illegal gold trade. In 2022 alone, an astounding 93% of the illegal gold entering the UAE originated from Africa.
Well, we can stop it there. This is the reality that we cannot deny in Africa. But we are not going to address this problem without addressing the issue of good governance. If you look at Africa's democracy index, there is a very good correlation between those countries where there is bad governance, i.e. the democracy index is very low. Countries like Congo and ourselves, Zimbabwe. And you'll find that those countries also are the most corrupt. Looting is rampant. So we come to the point where Africa's vast wealth has become our curse. It should not be that way. But it is. The only way we can meaningfully address this problem of ending corruption is by addressing the problem of bad governance. There is no escaping that. Zimbabwe has failed to hold free, fair, and credible elections since our independence in 1980. 44 years and counting. I think we should be ashamed of ourselves. In this day and age, we cannot even hold free, fair, and credible elections for our own good. We cannot deny that in those 44 years, the country did have many opportunities to implement the democratic reforms and end this case of rigged elections. We did. The 2008 to 2013 GNU was the golden opportunity to implement the democratic reforms and end the ZANU-PF dictatorship. Nothing happened. Why? Well, Mugabe bribed Morgan Tsvangirai with the trappings of high office, and the rest is history. What is so disappointing is that even now, with the benefit of hindsight, many Zimbabweans out there still have no clue what the GNU was about, much less that MDC leader sold out. And so they're easily conned again and again to participate in these flawed elections, whose only result is to give ZANU-PF legitimacy and perpetuate the dictatorship, perpetuate the people's suffering, and for the MDC leaders themselves, they get a share of the spoils of power. Why this has escaped so many Zimbabweans out there beggars belief, but it has. And this is the root cause of our problem here. Whether we like to admit it or not, ZANU-PF is going to win, to rig and win 2028 elections. They are counting on Chamisa and company to participate in those flawed elections out of greed. They are counting on Chamisa and company to con the millions of ordinary Zimbabweans to believe that the opposition is going to win rigged elections. And they'll participate in their millions, as happened last year. As long as the people participate in these flawed elections, SADC will not deny ZANU-PF political legitimacy. That is a reality that is amazing that some people still do not understand it. That is the truth. And as long as ZANU-PF remains in power, the corruption, the mismanagement, and the looting will continue. The documentary about Africa losing tons of gold every day, while the rest of the continent wallows in poverty, will continue. I think it is a crying shame that we have failed to address this problem. We can end this madness. What we need to do, we cannot stop ZANU-PF rigging the elections. Mnangagwa is hell-bent on rigging the elections and staying in power. We cannot stop Chamisa and company participating. They are hell-bent on having their share of the spoils of power. What we can do is educate the millions of the so-called Chamisa Chete Chete Brigade will be conned to believe the idiotic nonsense that Chamisa and company can win rigged elections. And who, having participated, will give ZANU-PF political legitimacy. It is a challenge. I'll be the first one to admit that millions of this Chamisa Chete Chete Brigade are not rational people. If you can believe such an idiotic nonsense as to think that Chamisa is a demigod, you cannot be a rational person. Universal suffrage, I've said, has not been a blessing to Africa. It's been a curse. Particularly when you have got selfish politicians like we've seen in ZANU-PF, MDC, CCC, who are always on the lookout to exploit and con people to do foolish things for their own selfish gain. We still nonetheless owe it to ourselves to end this madness. We cannot end corruption without ending the case of rigged elections. That is my message tonight. Thank you very much for those of you who were able to join, and have a good night.